Okay, let's get started with our Deep Learning and AI Part 3. And I left off last time telling you with great pride that this article was just published, and let's look into it a little bit more carefully. We talk about pancreatic cysts that are very common. Again, patients over age 60, probably more than 10% of patients have cysts, though in MR it's probably more than 20%. The question is, who do we need to follow? Who do we need to operate on? What do we need to do? And using explainable boosting machines, EBM by Microsoft, we take a look at this. Now, this explainable boosting machines was developed at Microsoft Research and has been used in a range of medical applications from heart disease to breast cancer with really, really good results. So the question is, can we be successful with that in pancreatic cancer and pancreatic cystic lesions? The key, of course, is one of the things that's unique. Where patients have an 80% probability of cancer, when you look at a population like that, what they tend to do is not looking at the group, but looking at the individual. They try to make a more binary model, being very specific as to the patient, because the probability and the importance of a 5% risk is different in an 85-year-old and in a 45-year-old. And so we need to make decisions correctly. We need to understand each patient as an individual. And we talk about personalized medicine. This type of analysis becomes very, very important. We're looking not so much at the global perspective, 20%, 80%, but what is that risk for that individual patient? The current state of the art is MoCA, and when we compare EBM to MoCA, it's much more accurate when you look at its predicting whether it's discharge, whether it's surveillance, or it's surgery. We look at these charts looking at the standard of care. We're looking at what the CTisus could do, and then what we could do with our work. And here is two charts basically showing you how we predict management, surgery, monitoring, or discharge, and how when you look at it with current clinical management above and with our EBM down below, you can see the number of surgeries decreases substantially, the number of monitoring increases. So very, very important. Surgery, remember, we talk about a 5% mortality rate, even in the best of hands, and all sorts of complications from a Whipple or distal pancreatectomy. So just some examples. Here's one case which was correct, where recommended management would have been surgery, and using our program, it was discharged. Okay? And you could see with our program, we talk about probabilities. Discharge was 76%, monitoring at 9%, surgery 15%. So you kind of look at how the computer's thinking. Remember, people always complain about AI as being a black box. This is a glass box. You can see how the decision was made. And the main thing driving the concern was the pancreatic duct and size of the lesion, but everything else pretty much pointed to leaving the patient alone. And in this case, where the recommendations clinically would have been surgery and MoCA would have been to monitor, we predicted surgery. But again, the surgery was at 50%. It wasn't like 95%. So again, we can talk about predictability. It was the RNF43 that really drove the move for surgery. But again, we understand why we're making decisions, and we can explain things better to the patient. If you look at the results, the key results, to me, the most important, we avoided 92 unnecessary surgeries, which is a 59% reduction in the number of surgeries that needed to be done. At the end of the day, monitoring versus discharge, okay, you monitor, maybe a year later you change your mind and you discharge from follow-up. But surgery is a one-way direction, right? You do surgery, there's no going back. And with these results, we correctly determined what patients did not need to go to surgery. Overall, in this cohort of patients, the use of EBM with CFMM could have changed the management of at least 25% of cases. Very, very, very important. And when you look at it, Pancreatic cyst management can be distilled into 3 separate pathways, as we discussed. The importance of cyst fluid molecular markers, the importance of looking at all the information from clinical history to imaging, again, in predicting greater sensitivity and specificity for identifying the correct management compared to either clinical management or previous AI models. And again, we're very excited about this. We need to do more patients, do a whole new data set, and we're going to do that with the team at the University of Pittsburgh. And again, very, very important how this changed what was MOCA, which is the state of the art. Now, if you look at the numbers, and as long as it holds true, the work that Juan Ferez and his team and our group at Hopkins did is the new state of the art. And again, very, very important. These models allow healthcare providers and patients to understand the probability of a management recommendation and interpret the impact of features used to make predictions. Okay? EBM models had greater sensitivity and specificity for identifying the correct management compared with either clinical management or previous AI models. So indeed, this is very exciting. When you get time, take a look at the article. Now, there was a recent article on pancreatic cysts, an excellent article, New England Journal of Medicine, talking about where we stand in some of the challenges. One of the things it clearly mentions is that AI is needed to really help us with management. Here's one of the charts from that article looking at all the various cystic lesions from neuroendocrine tumors to MCNs to pseudocysts related to pancreatitis and some of the imaging findings. They spoke about the approach looking at risk and putting patients in 3 risk categories and how we do things now, talking about DNA from cyst fluid and how that can be important. We talk about some of the work that's being done where you can look at a VHL marker in a cystic lesion and know with 99% accuracy it's a serous cystadenoma. So again, as we look for some of these mutations, as we look at cyst fluid, combine that with imaging and clinical history and using AI to put everything together, I think we're going to have a really good model for determining how to manage patients. Now, the other thing, of course, is we read a lot about ChatGPT, and with ChatGPT can be used, obviously, as in report generation, patient communication, but maybe even more important than this and clinical decision support is in data mining. Can we look and get the information what the patient has on their scans, and what can we do about it? Can we look with large language models at predicting the risk of patients using this generative AI to really look at all the data in the patient's chart and combine that with some of the current lab values, some of the cyst biopsy and fluid challenges, as well as CT in general, the ability to figure out what needs to go on. And again, this would really potentially improve the care we can provide to all our patients. This article by Rao with us, he's the CEO of Abridge, which is really changing the world, being able to communicate with the medical records, but also to help with predicting how to manage patients. And I think that whole area of large language models, I'm not going to be able to go into it here in detail, but it's something that's going to drive a lot of what we're going to be able to do. And the article by Topol makes that point that there's so much information in the medical records, but how do we get that information out? People don't have time. Mining the information yourself, just not going to happen. You look at the last report, the last images. What you want is something to look at every data point in the patient's entire life. And this ChatGPT can potentially do that. And in the article by Topol, they made the point that this is the opportunity for AI support to help advance diagnosis and care of pancreatic cancer. There's so much information. We need to pull more information from the CT and MRIs, more information from the lab, more information from the clinical history, more information from the family history to put everything together. Generative AI models can analyze vast patient data, including medical records, genetic information, and environmental factors. By integrating and analyzing these data points, AI models can identify patterns and relationships that may not be apparent to humans. Even if you gave me all the information, remember there's silos. I don't understand the pathology that well. I don't understand genomics that well. I'm pretty good at radiology, but that's one of 3 or one of 4. We need something that's expert in all of these. Generative AI has a promise for improved patient care, personalized medicine, more accurate diagnosis, reduce human error, streamline workflows, clinical decision support, collaboration, and democratization of medical care. Now, you can read these slides yourself. Now, one of the things I should mention, I like to show the entire slide, the larger amount of information. Obviously, I'm not here to read it to you or discuss every single word in a quote, but you know that this is recorded. You can sit there and go back, press stop, and read and understand things even better. I know you knew that, but I said it anyway. In this article by Wilson and Dougherty in Harvard Business Review, in the future, many of us will find that our professional success depends on our ability to elicit the best possible output from large language models like ChatGPT and to learn and grow along with them. To excel in this new era of AI-human collaboration, most people will need one or more of what we call fusion skills: intelligent interrogation, judgment, integration, and reciprocal apprenticing. The bottom line is you got to keep learning. We talk about medicine and many fields as lifetime learning. As AI comes along, as ChatGPT and other things come along, you really need that to keep learning and moving forward, because there is no standing still. If you don't learn it, it's not like you're going to stand still. You're going to be going backwards. And again, intelligent integration or intelligent interrogation involves prompting these large language models in ways that will produce measurable, better reasoning and outcomes. It's the skill of thinking with AI. Judgment integration, about bringing in your human discernment when a generative AI model is uncertain. You're working with the AI. And reciprocal apprenticing, you help AI learn about your business tasks and your needs, and then once the capability of this allows you to work with AI, and AI will be modeled for what you need. You don't need necessarily computer scientists. You will be one of the developers, even though you don't know how to program even a single line of code. Same article by Wilson, AI revolution isn't coming, it's here. Okay, it's here. The future of business will be driven not by generative AI alone, but by the people who know how to use it most effectively. And although Wilson and Dougherty didn't know it, they were speaking about medicine. If you stand there and watch, you're going to get run over. Now, there's some challenges, and let me go through some of these. What if AI is so good the reader bias sets in? That is, you're looking at the case, I think it's normal, AI says it's positive. You need to come up with an answer. If AI is so good, perhaps you won't believe yourself, and you'll only listen to AI, and perhaps people will just say, oh, what am I looking for? The AI is so much better. Also, the question is, how do you train people? How do you train residents and fellows? If the AI is so good, they may not be learning. I can use AI for PEs, but I've looked at PEs for 20 years. So I know what's real. I know artifacts. And so if there's an artifact and AI is being fooled, I know it. But if you're not really good at reading the studies, you're going to believe everything. And this article said that the inexperienced people used AI more or didn't disagree with AI, while people who were more experienced did disagree occasionally with AI, but they too became very much backed off because AI was shown to be so good. There's clinical practice AI, there's barriers. There was barriers when CT started and MR started. Reimbursement, who's doing the reimbursement? Physician over-reliance could be a problem. Potential issues with bias, unintentional bias. Liability issues. What about our patients? What do they think? And the black box nature of AI. But I showed you with the Microsoft EBMs, there's a transparent way of doing AI. And so the black box issues disappear. Finances is always a problem. Do we get reimbursed or not? There are a couple reimbursements now, but most things aren't reimbursed. And if you get reimbursed for AI, will you get reimbursed less for reading the studies? Will it be a push? If you're going to spend money, people expect to get a return. And who's going to buy it? Your radiology department or the hospital? It's similar to PACS. It's going to be used by everybody, but the hospitals want to make sure they get a return on investment. And the question is, AI could be ready, but the infrastructure may not be ready. Some areas AI is kind of obvious. In the emergency room setting, when you're a small hospital that doesn't have radiologist coverage, the ability to have applications that pick up PEs, that pick up fractures, even in the 90% range, that's 20% more than the ER doc who is not trained in radiology. Deployment of AI models in these settings can increase confidence in discharging patients for negative exams or help quick flag emergent findings that require intervention. So I think in areas where AI shows a more obvious return, and that might be the ER setting in smaller hospitals or hospitals without radiology coverage from 5 or 7 p.m. till the morning, it could be very, very valuable. What do our patients want? Well, at the end of the day, patients want a doctor, but they want the right answer. And more, it's age-related. You talk to 80-year-olds, they want a doctor. You talk to 20-year-olds, they want a computer. They just want to know they're getting the right answer. I think what we need to do is say we're using AI to make us better, that it's not AI versus us. Patients expect you and will expect you to be using AI. They expect you to use every tool possible to reach the right diagnosis. What about liability? Well, are you going to sue NVIDIA or Google or Siemens or the radiologist? Right now, there's not a question because the radiologist is signing the report and AI is a helper. If you have AI reading alone, it could be more of a challenge. But again, we'll see what happens in the future. And again, liability insurance. We always have issues with liability. If things are done correctly, if you follow the standard of care, you're okay. You're not going to lose money in court. But again, you will have insurance, and insurance will change, and AI will drive some of those changes. We talk about a breach of duty. I think at some point, the breach of duty will be if you don't use AI. What would a reasonably prudent radiologist do? Well, maybe it's to use AI. If you would have had AI, you wouldn't have missed that PE, and the patient would not have died or missed that fracture. So again, it's going to be a two-headed problem. If you use AI and you change your diagnosis, well, who's responsible? If you don't use AI and you make the wrong diagnosis, who's responsible? So again, it's going to be very important. If you ask, will radiology jobs be eliminated? We're so short-staffed, we'd love to have helpers. But the answer is a radiologist who doesn't use AI will be eliminated because they're going to be yesterday's news. It's going to change how we all work, and that's true in every field. But I think it will make us even stronger. I think the term Philippe Sawyer used was AI-augmented radiologists, okay? AI is a great aid to radiologists in the emergency setting and improves their workflow by decreasing reading time in some areas. As the applications of AI increase, it becomes clear that the role of the radiologist may change dramatically in the coming years, raising additional issues in terms of responsibility and liability. That's all true, but it's coming, and we need to learn how to use it. The idea of predicting the future is hard, but I think there's no doubt we can predict that AI will have a major impact in everything we do. So the road ahead. Topol made the point that across imaging, the richness of medical images imperceptible to human eyes does not stop at chest x-rays, looking at coronary arteries, looking for detecting pancreatic cancer, mammography. Every bit of radiology can be improved. Machine digital eyes can glean more information from a scan than human experts can readily detect or accurately decipher. Developments in AI make this scenario likely in the coming years. This advances an unanticipated opportunistic opportunity of deep learning AI. We can get more information out of a study than we ever thought was going to be possible. Using AI, risk for some diseases that ophthalmologists cannot see, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, renal disease, liver disease, become apparent. Similarly, what cardiologists cannot detect from an electrocardiogram, risk of atrial fib, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, may all be possibly in the data set that AI can find. So more and more, and Topol makes a good point, looking at the future is indeed very exciting. And does make the point that there's a lot of medical information that needs to be understood. We need lots of people working together, and we need to make sure we can afford all of these changes. But if done correctly, early detection of disease always saves money as long as it's done correctly. We wrote this article about large language models. Matthew Lundgren from Stanford, who works at Microsoft and works at Nuance. The bottom line is that this technology is going to change the world, including every aspect of healthcare, and the capabilities that have been arising and the rate at which people are adopting these new technologies are astounding. Everyone should be encouraged to get their hands dirty with this new technology. This new model ecosystem, again, you can read the article. Matthew gave a wonderful talk at Hopkins about this. But again, the capabilities of large language models allow us to do complex decision-making more accurately than ever. We talk about the fact that this is not theory. Microsoft Dragon Ambient Experience Copilot solutions and A-Bridge's AI solutions are two of the solutions that are available now that people are testing and using for immediate review and finalization of the electronic health record. And again, it's very exciting. There's an article in New England Journal of Medicine that Matthew also co-authored. One study showed that AI system for chest radiograph interpretation, when combined with input from a non-radiology resident, had performance values that were similar to those of board-certified radiologists. In an era where we're short radiologists, this may be the solution to all of our problems. You're going to have people with less training still perform as well. AI can be a training tool that provides immediate specialist feedback to generalists so that in time they may perform at an expert level. One of the things we notice with AI, if you're the world's expert, it's not going to make you a whole lot better. But if you're average, you're going to be coming at the expert level. So smaller hospitals, smaller communities, radiologists who don't have all that expertise will be able to perform at an expert level. So for patient care, it's really going to be exciting. Now, there was an article published recently on pancreatic cysts, and I do want to speak about that in some detail. And I know we're running late, so maybe I'll do a fourth lecture. Maybe it'll be a little bit shorter than usual, but I want to talk about this pancreatic cyst article and a few more things before we finish up. So let's take a break here and come back in a couple minutes. See you then. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to the CTisus YouTube channel. You can also visit us at ctisus.com for even more videos, plus quizzes, pearls, protocols, and oh so much more. We're also in the App Store and have well over a dozen apps for iPhone and iPad, all completely free. Thanks for watching.